Okay, folks. Hi, everybody. My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. What's happening? So let me just make sure that I'm actually live streaming here. I don't know. It says I'm live, but you never know. Can't really trust it. Anyway, thank you for joining me today for our first live stream of 2020. I've got a little bit of extra time, so I think I'll probably be doing these at least once a week for the foreseeable future or whatnot. So we got a lot to talk about because a lot of stuff has actually happened in the last. Let me make myself a little bigger here. Okay, let me put myself on top of the monitor. There we go. So a lot of stuff has actually happened in the last couple of weeks. A lot of shit happening with Iran, however you pronounce it. And, I think it's Iran. I think that's how you pronounce it. But anyway, a lot of stuff going on there. And, looming threat of war and all that shit. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about the news, stuff that's going on, out there. Kind of warm ourselves up a little bit. Let me make myself small here and kind of move that down into the corner. So yeah, you're looking at my desktop over here, my Breath of the Wild background. What can I say? That game's awesome. Let's see. Okay, first thing I kind of want to start with. Let's move over here. There was this story that came out over Christmas of this cop who wrote a bad message on his Starbucks cup and pretended that it was like discrimination, that like people were discriminating against him because he was a cop. And so he wrote fuck you pig on his Starbucks cup and like went and complained about it and put it online and stuff. And the guy that worked there, the poor barista dude that worked at Starbucks, ended up getting fired for that, which was kind of fucked up. And it all turns out the whole thing was bullshit. The entire thing was BS. The cop made it up. Why did he make it up? Why did he do it? It's kind of fucked up. I mean, this particular story we're looking at here, okay, if you look at this, Starbucks barista fired after officer's cup had pig on the label. It said fucking pig, I think is what it said. This actually happened before they figured out that the cop lied about it, which was kind of jacked up. Barista used poor judgment and was fired for violating company policy. Yeah, okay. Right, the barista really didn't do it. I can tell you exactly what happened. His manager took him, because I used to work at a Starbucks, actually. Manager took him in the back, right, started chewing his ass out. Barista said, hey, I didn't fucking do that. Manager fired him anyway because, when you work for basically, Starbucks is basically fast food. And when you work at a place like that, you're disposable, just gone, out of here. No discipline, no disciplinary, nothing like that, because they don't want, they don't want to look bad. Right, they don't want to get sued. They don't want, them defending you would make the company look bad and people would turn against them. So fired him instantly is what happened. I wouldn't be surprised if that kid got fired within an hour of this happening, to be honest. And then, it turns out that they actually investigated it because Starbucks didn't want people to, like, turn against their company and protest them and shit like that. And so they started going through the, security footage and that kind of thing. And lo and behold, it didn't happen. It was all bullshit. The cop made it up. It's like, fucking bullshit, I don't understand, like, I don't know, like, what happened to this cop? I can't see, let's see if we can find anything about, let's say, because that happened over Thanksgiving. Let's see if we can find anything about, let's see, cop, Starbucks cup. See if there was anything about him, like, getting fired or some shit like that, because, Starbucks apologized, the worker lost his fucking job. Oh, cop admits making up Starbucks pig story. That caused outrage. Anything about, the police officer getting held accountable for this? Hennington Police Chief Brian Hornaday. Oh, fuck you. Fucking.
What types of criminals
Oh
are actually
no.
stealing these packages?
God damn it.
I'm
Fuck
asking
off.
because there was
Okay, so now it's starting to play like, it's because I went to Fox Business. That's why. Fuck you, Fox Business. We're getting out of there. Let's see. Issue statement. Accused of lying when he said Pig was. Oh, okay. He was accused of lying. All right. So did he actually get like held accountable for that? Oklahoma Police Chief Johnny O'Mara accused a Starbucks employee of writing pig on his cup, which caused the employee to be fired. Now, the reports he may have lied, and even his own daughter is blasting him. Yeah, okay, I don't know. Anyway, I highly, highly doubt that the cop actually got fired for that. I have to look that up, but whatever. It's just bullshit, you know? It's like, we forget that police officers are just normal people. Let me make myself a little bigger here because I'm all tiny. We forget that police officers are normal people and, you know, we treat them like heroes and shit. Which is good because they put their lives on the line for us. You know, out there defending people and stopping criminals and murderers and drug dealers and shit like that. And you also kind of forget that, like any group of people, there's going to be a pretty big portion of assholes in that population too. And it's not, you don't necessarily want nice people as police officers anyway, right? Do you know? Because they have to do horrible things. Police officers have to put up with criminals and rapists, and they have to be ready to enact violence, to fight. And you don't want nice people to have jobs like that. But you know, that doesn't mean that they can't be professionals, and they shouldn't be doing fucking shenanigans like that. Another example, let's see. Another example, mobile Alabama officers homeless quilt. Facebook post sparks controversy. So if you haven't heard about this, basically, these cops here in Alabama made a little funny quilt out of all the homeless signs that they, confiscated over the Christmas holiday, right? And decided to put that on Facebook, you know, which is like, see, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, where's the professionalism, right? Look at this guy right here. Look at this dude with his mustache. Like, all happy, sitting there smiling, ha ha ha, this is really fucking funny. You know, I mean, now just think about what this image shows, okay? This is like, people who are like the lowest of the low in society, homeless people. They have nothing, right? Who are basically begging for money so that they don't starve to death, or maybe they can like get a hotel room and take a shower or something like that. And not only are we taking away the one thing that they can actually do to get money, right, which is beg for it, then we're also kind of making fun of them at the same time. It's like kicking somebody when he's down. I mean, it's fucked up. It's absolutely, I don't know, man. Like, I remember reading years ago when I was in high school, years and years ago, right? And I was reading this book about what it looks like when societies collapse, right? And some kind of book I wrote for some report about sociology or some shit like that, and it was about societies collapsing. And one of the case studies in this book was of a tribe in Africa that basically was falling apart, right? And what happened in that tribe when like the social order is disrupted and the tribal leaders are destroyed, killed, and all that shit, right? What ended up happening was that, whereas in the past, if somebody was hungry or sick or something like that, people would help them. People would give them food and take care of them. Instead, once your society begins to collapse, people begin to hoard resources for their own, and basically, like, that's the first sign that your society is collapsing, that people don't help each other. And in this tribe, it would be like people over here were like starving and had like no food, and then other people over here had too much food, and instead of giving the food to the hungry people, they would just eat it until they couldn't eat anymore. They'd have big feasts. think like Rome, you know, back in the Roman times, right? 2,000 years ago. They had vomitoriums, is what they called it. And that was when super duper rich people would go to and they would go and have giant parties and feasts, right? And they would eat so much that they would make themselves throw up so that they could eat more, right? And the whole idea was just to live in utter excess. And while that's going on, other people are like homeless, starving, you know, living in squalor all around them, you know. And if they weren't slaves to begin with, like, and you know, you can't help but see the parallels, right, in our society right now. You know, just look at this image right here, right? These two guys, you know, look how jacked they are. First off, big, huge, giant dudes, you know, with like lethal weapons, going out and basically persecuting the lowest people in our society, right? The people that are so low that not only do they not have anything, but they don't count for anything either. Nobody gives a shit about homeless people. It's like, you know, your homeless person dies, nobody cares. That's a perfect illustration right here. This picture of what's wrong with America right now. Anyway, okay, let's move on a little bit. There was another news story I wanted to go over about John Wayne, actually, because this is something I heard today, and I'm kind of blown away by this. This is the Independent right here. I'm not going to play this video because, you know, there's probably some kind of copyright or some shit over that, but I don't think they can give me a copyright strike just by showing their website and my live stream. Um, so yeah, John Wayne lays out racist, homophobic views in resurfaced Playboy interview. I believe in white supremacy, right? And people are now, you know, so John Wayne was, you know, an actor, of course, and it turns out he was a major racist piece of shit. Okay, what are you gonna do? He's a baby boomer, right? Actually, no, he wasn't. He was the generation before baby boomers, right? Whatever they were called, you know. And yeah, he's seriously fucking racist. If you read some of this stuff, you know, he's talking about get that thing out of here. You know, he's talking about it. All right, here's a quote. I believe in white supremacy until the blacks are educated to a point of responsibility. I don't believe in giving authority and positions of leadership and judgment to irresponsible people. Goddamn, yeah, racist as fuck. You know, another one he talks about, there's an anti-gay thing. Um, right. Here we go. Wouldn't you say the wonderful love of these two men at Midnight Cowboy story about two fags qualifies? That's basically what this is. They you know, edit that out. So yeah, well, now they're thinking about because I actually heard this on the news today. They're thinking like there's a call to remove his name from the airport here in Southern California, right? There's a John Wayne Airport, you know, or actually, is it in Southern California? Where's the John Wayne Airport at? John Wayne Port. Where is it at? It's around here. I thought it was in Burbank, but oh, it's in Orange County. Okay, there you go. Actually, that makes sense. Orange County. Orange County is kind of like a very very conservative, like, you know, racist area of Southern California. It's like the one place that's like still like 99% white or whatever, and you know the property values are all really high, and they try not to let like minorities move in there. You know, and of course there's plenty of black people and you know, Latinos and things and people who work in Orange County, but you know the property it's too expensive to actually live there. You know, all the people that work in the stores and the restaurants and shit like that, right? They're all minorities. They don't actually live in Orange County. It's very very, you know, people are kind of surprised. I think people would be surprised by that to see how segregated Los Angeles actually is. You know, it's you can really see neighborhoods are kind of cut off by the freeways, and you know the racial demographics all of various neighborhoods are very segregated. Although it's a lot better nowadays than it was say 40 years ago, but still it's still pretty like I don't know, rich poor, and then you notice the race of the people that live in the various neighborhoods. You know, It's like the more shit changes, the more it stays the same. Anyway, getting back to this, there's call to remove John Wayne's name from this airport and some other things, and it's like, yeah, okay, I can understand, right? In one sense, this is the same kind of argument that we had over the Confederate statues. If you remember, a couple years ago, that was a big deal, right? Where they started taking down all these statues, and then that kind of got the alt right into gear, and then they started having rallies and shit to keep the statues, and then that actually led to the Unite the Right thing that happened, where that one lady was run over, right? And Jews will not replace us, all of that shit. That was all started by these, this movement to take down Confederate statues, shit. And hang on a second. Okay, dropping stuff on the floor here. And it's the same kind of argument. It's like, okay, do you take this down because this person, what they believed in, what they stood for, is something that's anathema to, what our country is supposed to stand for, right? That being, equality, egalitarianism, right? The idea that every person is created equal, right? And yeah, obviously John Wayne didn't believe in that. Okay, but I don't know. I mean, John Wayne was an actor. He really wasn't a politician. He wasn't a revolutionary leader. He's an actor, okay? And he actually was kind of a pretty good actor, I mean, kind of typecast, I guess. He was good at playing cowboys and shit. I know that there's a couple of roles that he had, like one movie he played Genghis Khan or whatever, and that maybe didn't work so well, but he's generally, John Wayne is seen as one of the great American actors of the 20th century, right? So yeah, I mean, how important? I don't know. I mean, I don't really know if I have a good answer to this. It's like, should we remove it because of his political views, but that doesn't change the fact that he was still a good actor? Or can you separate his political views from his art? You know, uh, Maybe sometimes. I mean, did he really do anything that was like really bad, racist stuff like that? Like, did he do stuff like get people, get their jobs taken away because they were black or Latino or something? Like, I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he would like not allow people to cast people of color in his movies. I mean, is that something that happened? I don't know. We'd have to look that up. You know, I mean, if he just gave an interview, if that was just his personal views, but he never actually did anything, if he never really acted on it, then I'm afraid you're going to find that his views were not that different than a lot of other people's were back then. You know, so there's one thing that somebody will say, like, okay, people will say shit like, well, we shouldn't judge people in the past depending on our current day sensibilities, right? Well, John Wayne's sense of, what John Wayne was saying was actually pretty vile back then. That was 1971, right? It was pretty bad then too. It's not something that, yeah, the shit he was saying was not like, normal. Right? Well, no, not normal. The shit he was saying wasn't like a good thing to say back in the 70s either. I mean, this was well into the civil rights movement. But to be honest, even if he was saying the same thing in 1930, it still wouldn't have been a good thing to say. It still would have been very bigoted and very racist, right? Um, yeah, it's just, but by the sensibilities of the time, I would still say, yeah, he was still pretty vile. He was still pretty bad. And I think people out there in 1971, when they were to hear this, would be pretty angry as well. So yeah, it's not like it's not 1871, it was 1971. Shit, that's God, that's almost 20 years after the civil rights movement began. That's almost a decade after they signed the Civil Rights Act. That's, several years after Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and all that stuff hit the scene. Right? So it's like, should have fucking known better. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm kind of, hear me out here, because, you know, there are other times where this kind of thing happens where people will take something a celebrity said way in the past, and they'll blow it out of proportion, and it'll be like, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I don't think that rule is 100%. You know, in this case, I think it is. In this case, I think yeah, it applies. You know, what he said was vile and shit. But like for example, I saw another one not that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, where somebody was comparing what like an old comedy from like George Carlin and saying that it was like racist and unwoke and all that stuff. And it's sort of like well, I don't know, man. I mean, first off, I don't think George Carlin was racist at all. He did have a couple of comedy routines where he talked about feminism, right? And one where he, mentioned the N word and Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor and all that shit. But even if you listen to those, if you listen to his comedy, like, no, man, he wasn't racist at all. He was making fun of racism. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah, if a comedian today were to say what he said, it would probably be, way it wouldn't be allowed. You know what I'm saying? It's like it'd be too much, but still, it's not the same thing. It's like I think you need to look at the intention of what they were saying, you know, and I think there's enough evidence to show that George Carlin was not racist, and that he wasn't even probably sexist. He was most likely just making fun of racists and sexists, right? Whereas, John Wayne in this interview definitely appears to be a racist and bigoted towards gay people and shit like that, you know. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of. I mean, especially when somebody's dead, like it's one thing. Like if you were to take, say, Eddie Murphy, right? Eddie Murphy in his comedy back, Delirious and Raw and all that, he makes fun of gay people a lot in his comedy. In fact, so much so that there's actually rumors that he was like, maybe, you know, overcompensating for something. Like maybe he protested a little too much, right? Especially after that one time where he picked up a, trans woman who turned out to be a prostitute and shit, right? And got busted with her in the car. Like, you know, but yeah. But anyway, Eddie Murphy is like, had some pretty un-PC comedy when it came to gay people, shit like that. Eddie Murphy is still alive. That's the thing. You could actually go and talk to Eddie Murphy and ask him about it and see how his views have changed and give him a chance to defend himself, right? John Wayne is dead. Okay. George Carlin is dead. We don't have that. We don't have the opportunity to go talk to those guys. All we can really see is what evidence do we have from shit that they've said that's been recorded in interviews, and you can't count the movies or anything like that because you're playing a part there. But you can look at his comedy. You can look at interviews. You can look at old times they were on the radio and shit like that, and try to read their memoirs and shit whatnot, try to see what they stood for. And it's sort of like, I don't know, I think the more time that passes, the less we should do that, to be honest. I really do. I really think that because you're going to be able to go back, and pretty much every famous person in the past is going to have some kind of bad shit that they said or did, right? And does that mean that you just discount all of them? Abraham Lincoln. There you go. Here's an example. Well, he freed the slaves and all that shit, and yeah, but he didn't believe in equal rights for black people. No, he wanted to send black people back to, Africa and shit. He wanted them to be free, but he wanted them to be separate from white people, right? That's just a great example right there. Yet Abraham Lincoln is kind of like seen as like a forefather of the civil rights movement to some people. George Washington and shit, right? All the founding fathers, they all had slaves. John Adams, they all had slaves, stuff like that. Are we gonna like cancel all of them? Or do all of them no longer? Do they just no longer allow? They shouldn't be on the money that we have. We should change the name of Washington State to some other state. Like, I don't know, man. It's kind of, yeah. You can't really, it's like you gotta kind of think about it logically and stuff like that. And I really think the more time that passes, the less we should, you know, um, well, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because you should really make these things, known to people. You want people to know the real history behind these figures, obviously. You don't want to have some kind of like magic bullshit story about who all these famous people were and weave them into like, so it becomes a mythology, but at the same time, it's like it should be taken into context and what they really believed and what they really stood for. Hey, so we got a guy here, Mr. Bitch Lasagna. You're from Iraq. How you doing, man? Um, Welcome. Thank you for joining. I was actually about to talk about some stuff going on there with, Iran and all that, and how I'm hoping we end up not starting another war. So that's a pretty good segue. Why don't we move into it? So yeah, let me kind of go back to my little thing here. Go ahead and close that shit. Okay, we can close this. I was going to talk about this, but fuck that. Who cares? So, Donald Trump has gone and done a very, very horrible thing. And he's assassinated. Jesus Christ. He's assassinated a top ranking Iranian official. Right. Qasem Soleimani, right, who, yeah, this has caused major, major problems and basically is brought us to the brink of another war. Oh, wow, you hear the sound of helicopters. Um, hey man, Mr. Lasagna, maybe you should like, make sure you're okay, make sure you're safe, because if shit is hitting the fan right now there, then oh, okay. You live next to the airport. All right. Well, then that just means helicopters and shit are taking off. All right. That's good to know. Yeah, man. That's I don't know, man. We apologize. I apologize for the actions of my president because um, please remember that he actually got less votes than the person who lost the election. You know, because the elections in the United States are all fucked up. You live next to the airport near to the place that. Oh, wow. So where he was actually killed. You live near to where he was killed. Wow. That's shit. That's crazy. So were you actually there when that happened? Because, well, I mean, were you like near it or whatever? Like, did they do like a drone strike or something? See, we don't even know. See, here's the thing, okay? Nobody here in America even knew who this guy was, all right? Donald Trump didn't know who this guy was. He didn't. He didn't know. There's an interview of him talking to Hugh Hewitt a few years ago, where they bring it up, and he didn't know who this guy, was. He had no idea who he was. He had no idea what he did, right? He mistook what he thought that he was the head of the Kurds. He was like, oh, the Kurds. He said, no, the Kurds. Like, he had no idea. It was embarrassing. I'll put a link to the thing in the bottom of the interview that he had on the radio, and it's just sort of like I can tell you right now, everybody here in this country had no clue what was going on or who this person was, and it really does look like to us that this was done as a way to distract from Donald Trump's domestic problems. That being that his impeachment, because I'm sure, I hope if you know. Oh wait, shit! You saw the car? Really? Wait, so they blew him up while he was in a car? Holy fuck! That's crazy, dude. Shit. So I don't know, you guys at home, if you're gonna watch this later, I'm talking to a guy from Iraq. Says that he was near the place where this guy, what's his name again? Kaleem Suleimani was assassinated, and he saw the car. Shit, that's crazy. That's history right there, man. Anyway, yeah, it really looks like that this was done as a way to distract from Donald Trump's impeachment in order for him to get back the headlines and get and to consolidate his support among the electorate and among the Senate so that they won't impeach him. Because let's not forget, we had with Iran, we had a deal with Iran. We had a peace deal, with a nuclear peace deal where they would not develop a nuclear weapon and they allowed in inspectors and all that. We had that when Donald Trump took office, right? First thing Donald Trump does when he takes office is that he gets rid of that deal because he's an idiot. Oh, shit. Hang on one second, folks. All right, I'll have to come back to that in a minute. Yeah, because he's a moron. He gets rid of that. So then what ends up happening is so over the next year, he's just constantly threatening Iran and all that stuff. And there was at one point he even ordered an airstrike on Iran and then pulled it back at the last minute. So he's playing chicken with these people this whole time. And now it seems like suddenly when everything's going really bad for him at home, and it looks like he gets impeached. He's only the third president ever in the history of the country to be impeached. Right? Shit's going really bad. Suddenly they decide to go do this strike and kill this general. Yeah, he is Iran's top general. Yeah, okay, that's another thing. So according to Lasagna here, now Iraq joined the war with Iran against the USA. Exactly, exactly. It's they're basically all lining up, right? Because if now, correct me if I'm wrong, Lasagna, but wasn't it like just not even that long ago, a few weeks ago, where people in Iraq were protesting against Iran, and now they're lining up with them? Is that what happened? I mean, I don't know because I'm not there, but if you could, yeah, let me know. Tell me like what's going on there. But yeah, it seems like it's had the opposite effect of what he thought it would have. Because he's a fucking goddamn moron. My president, is a goddamn moron who's going. He's fucking everything up. It's horrible, you know. I mean, it's not just there. This is the entire region. Remember the Kurds also like. See, this is why I have this open on the screen right here. Wag the dog. All right. A little bit of history here. Back in the 90s, 1997, right? Bill Clinton was impeached, right? But before he was impeached, basically what happened was that there was a scandal that broke, the Monica Lewinsky scandal, where he got a little bit ahead in the Oval Office and stuff, right? And within a month of that scandal, Bill Clinton ordered an airstrike on Iraq, right? And he ended up blowing up this factory, which is a pharmaceuticals factory, right? And the claim was that they were making chemical weapons, and it turned out no, it was like they were making like aspirin, you know. And the whole thing was to distract from the Monica Lewinsky scandal, which led to his impeachment as well, you know. And it's like we're seeing the exact same thing, the exact same distraction, you know. It's like holy shit, well, fucking, I don't know, man. And you know what? I really think it's not going to work. I think that back then, right, back in the 90s, it really didn't work. Nobody bought it. And now the same shit's happening here. Like, let's see. They protest against the government because they rob our country. Yeah. But now they're not anymore. They're not protesting anymore, right? They're joining with them, right? Iraqi top commanders are now joined with Iran. Yeah, see? So basically it just fucked everything up. You know, it's like we had an agreement with Iraq to have troops there in order to fight ISIS and terrorists and shit like that. And in Iraq, they just voted to kick the United States out. They just voted to remove troops. So now, what's going to happen? Is he going to remove the troops? You know, what happens if he refuses to remove them? Does that mean Iraq is going to attack the troops? Are we going to start fighting with the Iraqis again? Is that what's going to happen? I mean, it's all fucked up now. It's all fucked up. And remember that in 2016, right, when Obama was president, it was still there was still crazy shit happening there, but there was a general, none of this shit was happening, right? It wasn't, oh my God. It's like every step the guy takes there leads us one step closer to a fucking war. you know. Let me get rid of this. I'll just make myself bigger here. All right. Let me just close this whole thing. Let's see, remove that. That's my monitor. I don't know. I don't know, man. It just seems like, we take one step forward and then three steps back every time. Every time we elect a Republican, especially in the Middle East, shit gets worse and worse over there. You know, we can't man. See, right now, okay, we're getting ready. We're getting ready now to have another election coming pretty soon. And when that happens, oh, wait, what's going on here? They don't even give us everything: water, power, health, anything. Yeah, see, I don't know, man, lasagna, dude. I sympathize with you, man. I'm sorry. I want you to understand that there's a lot of people in the United States who are not on board with this, and there's not very much we can do about it. Okay, because there is no, you know, this is what'll happen. Okay, it'll ramp up. Some people will protest in the United States, right? And then they'll go home, and then that's it. They'll protest for a couple of days, and it won't even be on the news. Okay, it won't even hit. It'll be like on the news for like 2 seconds, right? And then they'll just go away, and everybody who doesn't, you know, support the new war is going to be called a traitor, right? And this is what happened last time. The Iraq War, back in 2003. Yes, you're exactly right. World War III is coming soon, and I'm sad. I wish there's nothing we can fucking do about it, man. Like, this is what happened in 2003. When Colin Powell got up there in front of the United Nations and lied his ass off about Iraqi chemical weapons. They told us that they had 50,000 tons of botulism. That's what they said. They said they had 500,000 shells of mustard gas, and that they were working on creating a nuclear weapon. And none of that stuff was true. Colin Powell went to the United Nations and he showed satellite pictures of trucks, and they were supposed to be mobile weapons labs, so that they could drive around and evade inspectors. Complete bullshit. The whole thing was total bullshit. We knew it was bullshit. We all knew it was bullshit. Going into it, we knew it was bullshit. There were news stories in the news telling you this is not true. All of it's bullshit. And the government did it anyway. All of the Congress signed up for it. Resolutions passed in the House and the Congress. The Democrats signed on to it. Okay. And fucking 19 years later, shit is still hitting the fan there, because we keep electing these fucking crazy people. I don't know, man. It's fucked up. It's fucked up, and it's gonna happen again. It's gonna happen again because we elected a Republican. See, that's the thing. Okay, where the elections are happening this year, right? Contrary to what all the Republicans out there think, okay, nothing stops an election. A war doesn't stop an election. An impeachment doesn't stop an election. Nothing is going to stop the election. The election's going to happen, and regardless of any of this other shit, right? And right now, it's like, there's people that are coming out saying, okay, there's no difference between Republicans and Democrats, and these people only seem to show up whenever there is an election coming. Everybody says, oh, the Democrats are just as bad. Yeah, maybe they are in a lot of ways, when it comes to social programs and that kind of thing, right? Where they're not different is starting wars. Okay, if Hillary Clinton were the president right now, this wouldn't have happened, right? The Kurds would not have been betrayed. Okay, this right here, we would not be 24 hours away from bombs going off and war happening. Right now in America, wait, how many times have I seen dead bodies? Me personally, well, twice, actually. Actually, most recently, I had a relative pass away, by marriage, and yeah, I had to go upstairs, and it was not a pleasant thing. But I have not seen bodies in the streets blown to smithereens in a war. I can't even imagine that. you know. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Let's just remember, folks, that when you go vote this coming November, November 2020, this is really important. It's gonna make a difference. Where if we're not in a full blown war before then, right? I don't know. I mean, pray to whatever God you believe in and ask him to stop the fucking war from happening. There really is, because there's nothing we can do. There's things you can do personally, I guess, to not support it, right? But really, right now, it's like shit that's just out of your hands, and you feel so powerless. And I remember the exact same feeling back in 2003, 2002, 2003. Weeks and weeks and weeks passed, and they're going to invade Iraq. They're going to invade Iraq. We all knew it. We all knew it was bad. We couldn't do anything about it, and it's just fucking horrible, man. I'm really sorry, lasagna, dude. I'm sorry. I don't know. I can't apologize for the actions of my country. Hundreds of times explosions. Yeah, damn, dude. I'm sorry, dude. I'm reading your comment here. Dead bodies hundreds of times and explosions. I can't even imagine. I can't imagine it. And you know, the majority of people in the United States also cannot imagine that. See, to us, this is all shit that's happening some other place, somewhere else. People ignore this stuff here. I think if everybody had a personal stake in it, there would be a lot less wars. You know, yeah, dude, Night King Obama was a warmonger. Then you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. That's 100% wrong. You know, thank you for watching, but that's not true. That's not true. We had a peace deal with Iran. Okay, we did. We had a peace deal, right? There was no war. There was no threat of war. War was not going to suddenly break out like it is now. Trump takes over, right? Ditches the peace deal. He almost orders a fucking airstrike on Iran and then pulled it back. Do you remember that? Remember when that happened? Like about a year ago? We were like 10 hours away from starting a war with Iran, and then he suddenly turned it around because he was like bluffing or whatever. Remember that shit? You know? And then now it's like now we're about to invade, because we're basically, you know what's going on here, man? You know what's happening, Night King, is that we basically it's like if you're in a parking lot and you punch someone in the face and then you wait for them to hit you so that you have an excuse to kick their ass. That's what's going on here, right? We basically did this strike to kill this guy from Iran so that then we're waiting for their response, and then they're going to take that response and they're going to say that's justification for invading. That's exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, Night King, read the other comment from Lasagna here. Listen to this. His family members and shit are like dead, dude. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. There's nothing. I wish I could. I wish I could do something, dude. I don't know, man. I hope you're okay, Lasagna. I hope you're okay, dude. I hope you stay safe. You know, I can't give you any advice because you've lived through this, so you know more than me, and I'm really sorry. Um, hey guys, I'm also sorry, but I gotta like close this off here. um, we've been going 45 minutes. Yeah, dude. Hey, Lasagna, send me a PM. Send me a PM. Tell me about it, and I'll make a video and I'll read it to people. You know, send me your testimony. Tell me about it, and I'm gonna make a video and I'll read it. And I'll say this is from a first-hand account of a war survivor. Of what our country does to people. Because that's the thing. People in the United States, they don't understand. They don't understand that these actions have consequences for people out there. They don't. It's like a game to people here. Politics is like a game. It's like TV. Okay, there's a real disconnect between people and reality in the United States, and it's because they've never had to experience it themselves. The baby boomer generation had one war 40 years ago, and then they had like 20 years of relative peace, right? Where like they never had to like sacrifice anything. And even now, even since the whole war started in Iraq and all that, what have we really sacrificed here? We don't have thousands of dead bodies coming back, like in Vietnam or whatever. No, there really has been very little changes in the United States. It wasn't like in World War II, the war was so crazy that there was rationing and there was a draft and you couldn't go buy things like steak and meat and all of that shit. Hey man, thank you so much, Lasagna, for joining. Thank you. You're awesome. But yes, please send me, tell me about it and send me an email or something. Send me a private message, you know. Anyway, yeah, but getting back to that, like, generations past, like the populace was actually invested in war. World War II, they used to sell, stamps, war bonds, shit like that. They don't do that anymore. Like, there really has been very little change, since 2003 to now. If you really think about it, like, what have you sacrificed? What have you had to sacrifice as a non-combatant? What have you had to give up? Nothing. You haven't had to give up shit. It's basically continued normal how it is. Blockbuster movies come out every year, video games get better and better every year, right? And the war doesn't affect you unless you have a relative that goes over there or something. Like my father actually was in the Air Force. And from like 2003 to like 2012, around then, he retired around then. And he was deployed like 9 times, which is ridiculous. At one point, he told me that he wanted to retire and he couldn't. They wouldn't let him, you know, which is like, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could have a job that you weren't allowed to quit, but apparently, being in the military is one of those jobs, you know? And it's just like, yeah, man, our country's fucked up. I mean, it should be, you know, I don't know. I don't know. We really need to clean house. And the only thing I can think of how to do this is to vote in November. Please get out there and vote. Remember what's going on here, right? Take a look at what actually really happened and not some bullshit that they tell you. Look at the records of your candidates, right? Look at the actual historical events that have happened over the last couple of years and go out there and fucking vote. And let's I don't know. We got to start somewhere. I mean, you know. Anyway, folks, we kind of got off on a big tangent. Thank you, Lasagna, for joining. Um, Man, these live streams always turn out to be something different than what I planned. That's actually kind of cool. So, anyhow, I think I'm going to end this. Thanks a lot, guys. Adios.